equation, y is equal to x squared plus 12x plus 39. So right now, so we want to find the zeros of this equation. In other words, we want y is equal to 0, right? So right now I'm going to tell you it's not factorable. Okay, PSI is not going to work for us. No two numbers multiply to 39 add to 12, at least no integers. So I'm going to try to complete the square. This one is nice because what's in front of my x squared? 1, right? So we get x squared plus 12x plus 39. So how can I complete the square with this? Matt?
Divide 12 by 2.
Okay, so 12 divided by 2 is 6. Square it. No. You look. So we add 36 and subtract 36 to complete that square. So here we get y is equal to x plus 6 quantity squared, what we're aiming for. So what's negative 6 plus 39? So we need to reduce this term here, simplify it. Sorry? 3. So before we find the roots, let me ask you this. We've got this form now. Love this form. What's the vertex?
Negative 6 and 3.
Thank you. Negative 6 and positive 3. Okay? Is the quadratic opening up or down? Up? Compressed, stretched? Which one is it? Okay. Stretched? Compressed? Neither, right? Coefficient is 1. This is your standard parabola. It's not stretched or compressed, right? Okay, so we already have an idea what the parabola looks like for this equation. But let's continue on. So how can I solve for it to be the x-intercept? In other words, when y is equal to 0. Katie?
T equals x plus 6 squared.
Sorry?
T.
So you want to use the t method? Okay. So we're going to substitute let t is equal to x plus 6 quantity squared. So here we will have 0 is equal to t plus 3. Okay? So now we just want to solve for t. What's t? How can I solve for t? Can I? So we subtract 3 from each side. Right? But we're not solving for t. This just kind of helps us get us there. We want to put t back, we'll put this back in now. X plus 6 quantity squared. Right? And now how do we solve for x? How do we solve for x now? Square root. So we take the square root of both sides. Right? That's how we sort of undo or do the opposite of square. So we got the square root of -3 equal to x plus 6. And how do I solve for x now? How can I solve for x? Galen?
You subtract 6 from both sides.
Subtract 6 from both sides, so I have square root of, oh sorry, this is supposed to be positive and negative, forgot about that, right? Positive, negative square root of -3. So positive, negative square root of 3 minus 6 is equal to x. So our answer is x is equal to -6 plus or minus the square root of -3. Make sense? Yes? Boy, if that makes sense to you, you gotta leg whole body up on a whole bunch of mathematicians out there. What's the square root of -3? What number can you multiply by itself will give me -3? Well, if you have a positive times a positive,
But then, yeah, if you
what do you get? You get a positive. Well, if that number is negative, what's a negative times a negative? Positive. I mean, that's how we sort of introduced the quadratics was, you take any number squared, it's got to be positive. So we cannot take a square root of a negative number. No such number exists. No such real number exists. Right? You guys only deal with a real number system. Therefore, this has no real roots. It has no real roots. Huh? Should always be an answer. Well, let's look at this. What's my equation? Y is equal to x plus 6. Y is equal to x plus 6 quantity squared. What was it? Plus 3? So we said the vertex was -6, 3. So if I was to graph this, right? -6 puts me, so this is -2, -4, -6. Plus 3 puts me roughly around, right around here. Yes? This is quadratic, open up or down? Do you remember? Opens up, right? So it gotta look something like that. It never crosses the x-intercept. So this is why our answer makes sense, right? Y can never equal to 0. Looking at our graph, it never crosses our x-intercept. So now basically come down, introduce you to a notion that a quadratic equation, no real answer sometimes, because it never crosses the x-intercepts. In other words, y can't be equal to 0. Yes, Jenny, I know I see that annoyed look on your face, like all that work just for no answer.
It's the only way to tell if you get a negative square root. Is that the only way to tell if there's no real answer? So you have to do all the work and then get nothing.
Once you get to here, so let's say you had x plus 6, quantity squared, -3, right? As soon as you get the -3 here, you don't take the square root. That's how you know you don't have to proceed down past here. I know what you're saying. There's still so much work over
Can you
here.
not do that on a test, please?
Ah,
That's not fair. So
you know what?
we just write no real numbers.
You just no real roots.
No.
Roots.
we
No
don't have
real
to write-
roots.
So then
I mean, you can't say x equals anything because there's no real roots.
Is it good shortcutting?
It's a fabulous question you asked, Ginny. We will actually talk about this. Okay, I don't have time for a word problem. So I need to just jump right into the next lesson. So normally I would introduce, we have a word problem that simulates solving an equation. Key concepts. yada yada yada. So the issue is here, we're talking about factoring, right? The whole idea is factoring, any of the factors equals 0, your answer is 0. Some equations can be solved by factoring, but others can't. And the solutions of a quadratic equation are known as roots, okay? So that's enough of that. So the other lesson I want to get to today. Who did this? Who got an answer? Katie,
My answer, or how you,
the answer.
x equals 5/4 is like square root of 5/4 plus 2.
Sorry?
Plus 2.
Plus 2. Everybody else got that? No? What else do we get? Well,
I got -7/4, but that was probably just a calculation.
negative 7/4? No, not. I know that's not right because I know this one has a radical in it. Get it? Negative 3/4? Try? Okay, looks like I have to complete the square on this one for you guys. So y is equal to, let's take 4 out. We got x squared minus 4x. And at least a space because I need to complete the square. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Squared is positive 4. So I need to subtract 4. So here I got y is equal to 4 times x minus 2 quantity squared minus 4 plus 11. So y is equal to 4x minus 2 quantity squared. So 4 times negative 4 is negative 16 plus 11. So y is equal to 4x minus 2 quantity squared minus 5. So that's my equation. Now I want to solve for it by setting y to 0. And add 5 to both sides. Right? Now I want to divide by 4. So I get 5/4 is equal to x minus 2 quantity squared. Take the square root of both sides. So plus or minus the square root of 5/4. So Katie, that's one thing you forgot was the plus and minus. Okay. So you put to x minus 2. So really x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 5/4.
Would you put the 2 in front?
So you can put the 2 in front and back. So Katie was right, just the plus and minus. She just forgot to put the plus and minus. Good job. Not bad, huh? A lot of work. Kind of sucks. So today, I don't have time to demonstrate or prove the quadratic formula. I just have time to tell it to you. What I will do though is I will post a link to a video for Mr. Khan, my favorite math teacher, almost, to demonstrate or prove the quadratic video. There's also another lesson on Cloud 2. I actually showed this to my Section 5 class, right? So you can watch that video instead as well. So there's other places where it's actually demonstrated. What the quadratic formula is, if you have y is equal to a, x squared plus bx plus c. What is that called? Standard form. Okay, you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. When you have a quadratic in this form, to solve for x, you can actually prove that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a.
What? What?
Memorize it. I suggest for your homework tonight, because you're gonna practice this quadratic form, using it, write it out for every single question. Because that's how you're gonna start memorizing it. Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So as an example, let's take what we have here. Oh, sorry, hold on. Okay. Sorry. Good now? So here we have our equation. So I'm going to write out the quadratic equation again. X is equal to minus b plus or minus, right, square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What's my value of a here in this equation? 4. Value of b? Negative 16.
And 11.
C is 11. Just plug in these numbers. X. So B is negative 16, so negative of a negative is just 16, right? Plus or minus square root, what's B squared? Well, I'm just going to put minus 16 squared minus 4, what's the value of A? 4, what's the value of C?
Wait, why is it just 16?
Negative
Oh,
times the negative, it negates the negative. The negative negates the negative. All over 2 times A, which is 4. This is 16 plus or minus, what's 16 squared? Somebody help me out. Oh, I know this. 256. Awesome computer number. 256 minus 4 times 4 is 16 times 11. I need help with that. 16 times 11. 176? So what was your question, Matt?
Oh no, you just put the.
Yeah. So negative 76 all over 8. Okay. Well, I could rewrite this as x is equal to 16 over 8 plus or minus the square root of, what's 256 minus 76? 80. Over 8. Okay.
Is this gonna be on Blackboard or Cloud or something?
I'm recording this as I go along, so yes. Pardon? The Cloud video will prove this. I'll also post another Cloud video where he actually uses it. So what's 16 divided by 8? How can I simplify that? 2. Well, the square root of 80 is really, what's 80?
But isn't it 80 over 8?
80 is 16 times 5. 16 times 5, does that give me 80?
Yeah.
So I can rewrite 80 as 16 times 5 over 8.
Why would you just
Drop
do
down.
that? You should just divide.
Why would I just do 80?
Why did you do the 16 times 5?
Because, what's the square root of 16? So I could take out the square root of 16. So this is really square root of 16 times the square root of 5 over 8.
What?
Isn't that just, can't I just do?
So the square root of 16 is 4
Well, why'd you do the square root?
because I'm trying to simplify my radical.
And do you do that for all the questions? Like 80, you split up the 80?
Try to find a perfect square. Within your square root, try to find a number you can divide a perfect square with. So in this case, I knew 80 was divided by 16. So if I take the square root of 16, it's 4 times the square root of 5 divided by 8. Well, I can simplify that to be x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. Is that the same answer we got before?
How'd you get the over 2 divided 4 by 8?
Well, I reduced 4 and 8 to be over 2.
Why would
So-
you do that? Yeah.
Sorry?
No, why would you do that if you got the same answer as before? Why would you do
So if you don't like completing the square, sorry.
If you don't like it, if I like completing
Oh,
the
why?
square compared to that.
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, I just need your attention for 2 more minutes, please. This is the quadratic formula. Okay, so the answer is 2 plus or minus square root of 5 over 2. Because this is going to answer your question, Jimmy. Okay? Previous answer was well, I had 2 plus or minus square root of 5 over 4. Well, really, this is the same as 2 plus or minus the square root of 5 over the square root of 4, which is equal to 2 plus or minus square root of 5 over 2. We got the same answer, right? Just that here I just stuck the whole fraction in the square root. So I have a question. This part, b squared minus 4ac, this is called the discriminant. So we just take b squared minus 4ac, just do that calculation. What happens if that's negative?
Oh, right.
No, what happens? What happens?
There.
No real root.
Yes.
So you don't do anything.
If you just take b squared minus 4ac, if this is negative,
What do you mean if it's negative? Like, if you wouldn't-
whatever you calculate that number to be, if that's negative, that means there's no real roots.